Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. Sense and Sensibility is a novel by Jane Austen, and was her first published work when it appeared in 1811 under the pseudonym A Lady. A work of romantic fiction, better known as a comedy of manners. It tells the story of the Dashwood sisters, Eleanor, age 19, and Marianne, age 16 and a half, as they come of age. They have an older half-brother, John, and a younger sister, Margaret, age 13. The novel, which sold out its first print run of 750 copies in the middle of 1813, marked a success for its author. It had a second print run later that year. It was the first Austen title to be republished in England after her death, and the first illustrated Austen book produced in Britain, in Richard Bentley's Standard Novels series of 1833. The novel has been in continuous publication since 1811, and has many times been illustrated, excerpted, abridged, and adapted for stage, film, and television. Summary. When Mr. Henry Dashwood dies, leaving all his money to his first wife's son John Dashwood, his second wife and her 3 daughters are left with no permanent home and very little income. Mrs. Dashwood and her daughters, Eleanor, Marianne, and Margaret, are invited to stay with their distant relations, the Middletons, at Barton Park. Eleanor is sad to leave their home at Norland because she has become closely attached to Edward Ferrars, the brother-in-law of her half-brother John. However, once at Barton Park, Eleanor and Marianne discover many new acquaintances, including the retired officer and bachelor Colonel Brandon, and the gallant and impetuous John Willoughby, who rescues Marianne after she twists her ankle running down the hills of Barton in the rain. Willoughby openly and unabashedly courts Marianne, and together the two flaunt their attachment to one another, until Willoughby suddenly announces that he must depart for London on business, leaving Marianne lovesick and miserable. Meanwhile, Anne and Lucy Steele, 2 recently discovered relations of Lady Middleton's mother, Mrs. Jennings, arrive at Barton Park as guests of the Middletons. Lucy ingratiates herself to Eleanor and informs her that she, Lucy, has been secretly engaged to Mr. Ferrars for a whole year. Eleanor initially assumes that Lucy is referring to Edward's younger brother, Robert, but is shocked and pained to learn that Lucy is actually referring to her own beloved Edward. In Volume 2 of the novel, Eleanor and Marianne travel to London with Mrs. Jennings. Colonel Brandon informs Eleanor that everyone in London is talking of an engagement between Willoughby and Marianne, though Marianne has not told her family of any such attachment. Marianne is anxious to be reunited with her beloved Willoughby, but when she sees him at a party in town, he cruelly rebuffs her and then sends her a letter denying that he ever had feelings for her. Colonel Brandon tells Eleanor of Willoughby's history of callousness and debauchery, and Mrs. Jennings confirms that Willoughby, having squandered his fortune, has become engaged to the wealthy heiress Miss Grey. In Volume 3, Lucy's older sister inadvertently reveals the news of Lucy's secret engagement to Edward Ferrars. Edward's mother is outraged at the information and disinherits him, promising his fortune to Robert instead. Meanwhile, the Dashwood sisters visit family friends at Cleveland on their way home from London. At Cleveland, Marianne develops a severe cold while taking long walks in the rain, and she falls deathly ill. Upon hearing of her illness, Willoughby comes to visit, attempting to explain his misconduct and seek forgiveness. Eleanor pities him and ultimately shares his story with Marianne, who finally realizes that she behaved imprudently with Willoughby and could never have been happy with him anyway. Mrs. Dashwood and Colonel Brandon arrive at Cleveland and are relieved to learn that Marianne has B. Thus Edward is finally free to propose to his beloved Eleanor, and not long after, Marianne and Colonel Brandon become engaged as well. The couples live together at Delaford and remain in close touch with their mother and younger sister at Barton Cottage. Critical analysis. Sense and Sensibility, by Jane Austen, is a novel that delves into the nuances of human character, societal norms, and the complexities of love. Here's a critical analysis of some key aspects. Satirical social commentary. Austen employs sharp satire to critique the social norms of her time. The novel scrutinizes the rigid class structure, the emphasis on wealth and status, and the limitations placed on women, particularly in the context of marriage. Characterization. The characters in Sense and Sensibility are meticulously crafted to represent different facets of human nature. Eleanor embodies prudence and rationality, navigating the challenges with poise. Marianne, on the other hand, represents romantic idealism and emotional impulsiveness. The contrast between the sisters serves as a lens through which Austen explores the balance between sense and sensibility. Exploration of gender roles. Austen challenges traditional gender roles, portraying her female characters as complex individuals with intellect and agency. Eleanor, in particular, defies stereotypes of the passive and emotional woman, showcasing strength and resilience in the face of adversity. Irony and humor. Austen's use of irony and humor is evident throughout the narrative. The gap between appearance and reality, especially in romantic relationships, is a recurring theme. The characters often find themselves in ironic situations, highlighting the discrepancy between societal expectations and individual desires. Love and marriage. The novel scrutinizes the institution of marriage, revealing the economic and social considerations that often govern romantic unions. Marriages based on genuine affection, such as Eleanor's with Edward Ferrars and Marianne's with Colonel Brandon, are contrasted with those motivated by financial gain, as seen in Lucy Steele's marriage to Robert Ferrars. Evolution of characters. The characters undergo significant development and growth throughout the novel. Marianne's transformation from impulsive romanticism to a more measured understanding of love is a central theme. Eleanor's resilience in the face of personal disappointment showcases her maturity and strength. In Sense and Sensibility, Jane Austen's mastery lies not only in her storytelling but also in her ability to use wit, irony, and keen observation to critique the societal norms of her time. The novel's enduring appeal lies in its timeless exploration of human nature and the intricacies of relationships.